The romance between Matt Murdock and Karen Page in Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 has just taken a sharp, emotional turn. However, it may open the door for another MCU relationship to be reignited in the future. As seen in Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 thus far, Matt and Karen have been gradually building a resistance movement in New York against the corrupt Mayor Wilson Fisk and his brutal anti-vigilante task force. In the midst of this ongoing war, they're very much involved, living together and caring for one another while staying off the grid and continuing to fight Fisk's influence as fugitives. That said, things have clearly taken a turn for the worse when it comes to Karen and Matt's relationship following the recently released Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, Episode 6. As more lives are lost and pressures continue to mount, it's starting to look like the MCU may be setting up a major romance twist that could completely reshape Daredevil's personal life, one that's very much centered around a core fundamental difference Karen and Matt now have about finally bringing an end to all the violence and loss they've endured since the very first season of Netflix's Daredevil. Daredevil and Karen have become very divided in Born Again Season 2. After this most recent episode of Daredevil, Born Again, the biggest source of tension between Matt Murdock and Karen Page clearly comes down to one thing: Daredevil's refusal to kill. Murdock refuses to cross that line, still believing in mercy and the chance for redemption while seeking justice through the system. However, Karen is no longer on board like she once was in Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, Episode 6. This is largely due to the growing number of loved ones and allies who've been lost the longer major threats Wilson Fisk and Bullseye are allowed to keep living. Not only does Karen try to get Matt to entertain the possibility that this war with Fisk will likely end with one of them having no choice but to kill the other, but she then puts a gun to Bullseye's head, whom Daredevil saved from the AVTF, a remarkable act of mercy considering all the pain and loss Bullseye has caused both Karen and Matt, Foggy Nelson's murder being top of the list. Although Matt stops Karen from killing Bullseye just in time, she literally begs Matt to let her kill Bullseye for him, unwilling to stand by any longer while Daredevil keeps saving the wrong people. While Matt asks Karen what happened to her, she simply answers that she grew up, confirming that a fundamental rift exists between the two, one that they might not be able to reconcile. It certainly doesn't help that Karen is now in the custody of the AVTF by the episode's ending, an incredibly dangerous place to be heading into the last two chapters of Daredevil, Born Again Season 2. Is there still hope for Karen Page and the Punisher in the MCU? Custom image by Kai Young. In light of this major new division between Karen and Matt Murdock, it does feel like it's worth asking if Frank Castle's Punisher might become a new romantic partner for Karen down the line in the MCU's future. It'd certainly be a major twist, though one that isn't as crazy as it might sound at first. Although the Punisher isn't in this current season of Daredevil, Born Again, he was featured in the first season, having very similar arguments with Daredevil that Karen's now having about whether a point will ever come where Murdock will cross the line. When does enough become enough? Karen also admitted earlier in the season that Frank's methods were certainly effective. However, things get far more compelling when you think about the full scope of their relationship dating back to the Netflix era of Marvel shows. Before Born Again, Frank and Karen had quite the history together, and some solid chemistry, as seen in Netflix's Daredevil and the original Punisher series, where Karen was also featured. Time and again, Frank has certainly demonstrated more care for Karen Page than anyone else. Furthermore, actress Deborah Ann Wall said back in 2017 that both she and Jon Bernthal felt like there was room for a Karen/Frank romance to one day be ignited during the Netflix era. Perhaps that time is finally coming now that we're seeing a resurgence in the MCU's street-level stories? With Karen moving further away from Daredevil's ideology, the possibility of her gravitating towards someone like Frank at least feels plausible. It would certainly be a major shift that would probably be pretty divisive, though some longtime Castle shippers would no doubt love it. Who knows what the future holds for the final two episodes of this current season, or in the upcoming Daredevil, Born Again Season 3, for that matter. In any event, it's certainly an interesting dynamic to speculate about following the significant rift and tensions that have just formed between Karen and Matt.